At those talks, the subject of Greenland also came up. Joining us on the set, Clovis Casali, our reporter who just returned from Greenland, the semi-autonomous region which has been controlled by Denmark for hundreds of years. Legislative elections taking place in Greenland. Clovis, tell us a little bit about all these reasons that sparked your trip there.
One key reason, of course, Donald Trump, the US president, saying he wanted Greenland one way or another, that he would be ready to buy Greenland for several reasons: mineral resources, rare earths, gold, uranium, but also a strategic location. And we saw in the report earlier that you were just playing that meeting between the Secretary-General of NATO and Donald Trump. Well, during that meeting, reporters asked Donald Trump if he still thought that Greenland would become one day a US part of the United States. And he said, "I think it will happen." I can tell you those words won't go down well in Greenland, where we were a few days ago. We just returned last night, and people there furious at Donald Trump, the way he's trying to get Greenland. They see themselves as more than just autonomous. They want to be independent one day. And those words, the recent comments of Donald Trump, just like the previous ones, sparked an angry response from the outgoing Prime Minister, who said that he's acting as an interim Prime Minister for the time being because he'd lost the elections. But he said the American president has once again evoked the idea of annexing us. I absolutely cannot accept that. And the man likely to be the next Prime Minister of Greenland, Jens Frederik Nielsen, said Trump's statement from the US is inappropriate and just shows once again that we must stand together in such situations. And that was exactly the feeling we got when we were in Greenland. People opposed to being part of the US, opposed to Donald Trump. All the parties fiercely opposed. For one, Nalarak, the most pro-independence party, that's not pro-Trump, but who's pro-US, and they finished second in the elections.
Yeah, but the people who finished first, the one speculated to be the
Jens
next...
Frederik Nielsen, we can see him
You met
now.
Nielsen.
Yep.
Tell us more about that. What was he
Quite
like?
surprising, because when we go and cover elections anywhere around the world, it's very rare to see the actual candidates on election day. This time they were all outside the polling station, the only polling station of the capital, Nuuk, and we saw Jens Frederik Nielsen, the leader of the party Democratic, which is called the Democrat Centre-Right Pro-Business. They weren't expected to win. And we interviewed him on the day of the vote, and he was relaxed. He didn't think clearly that he was going to win with such an extent. He got more than 3 times more than during the previous ballots in terms of votes. He didn't think he would win. A taxi driver that day told me, "I think the Democratic Party will win. I believe change is around the corner." And that taxi driver, a young man from Greenland, of course, was right. But let's take a listen to Jens Frederik Nielsen. I asked him that day how he felt about this election, why it was such an important moment for Greenland, because a lot of people there were telling us the country is at a crossroads. Let's take a listen to the man who's tipped to become Greenland's next Prime Minister.
It's really important, both because of the things inside our country, but also because of the outside, the USA thing and the independence thing, yeah.
And what does your party think of independence, and what do you think about it?
We want to build a strong society, a strong country before we take the step. But it is a vision. It is the goal to be an independent and sovereign state in the future.
Yeah, worth pointing out, Jens Frederik Nielsen talking about independence. His party is not the most pro-independence party, but you heard that he says that ultimately he wants that to become reality. When the country is self-sufficient on some levels, or when the country has enough funds, financial funds, to be able to run the government, run social services, because for the time being, they rely a lot on Denmark that gives at least 530 million euros every year for the budget of Greenland. And that's not the only thing Denmark does, because it also offers any Greenlanders the right to go to university, to school in Denmark for free. There are various partnerships, of course. Denmark, which is the former colonial power. Independence, if it happens, is not going to happen tomorrow. You still need a referendum. It could take 10, 20 years, who knows? But the likely next prime minister is not the most pro-independence, as we just heard.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because Greenland, not as a place we often cover here at France 24 or for many other international news stations, but now it does have this spot on the news cycle. It's getting a lot of attention. What was it like working there?
It was strange. It was great because it's Greenland, because it's beautiful, because of the landscapes. It was difficult. It was cold. Difficult because it's cold. It was very cold. There were snowstorms for 3 days, so all the planes were grounded, and that meant that tourists were left stranded in Nuuk for several days, so they had to postpone their holidays, but they were happy to witness such a historic moment, this election. Difficult also because people that aren't used to so many journalists, to the media frenzy, and understandably, they didn't want to answer all of our questions. They were sick of seeing journalists on the streets of Nuuk, which is small, 20,000, and the most people living there. They were sick of seeing so many journalists ask them questions about independence, about Donald Trump, and also I think, I'm not a specialist of Greenlandic culture, but I think it's not necessarily in their nature to be very open about their feelings, talk about all of these issues. So we did manage to talk to some people, but it was difficult. And then also preparing for interviews beforehand, finding a journalist, a fixer who could help us was difficult, very expensive because a lot of journalists were going to Greenland. So it's difficult to organize all of that. And one last anecdote, because I think it's interesting. We tried to set up an interview with a Danish scientist who goes to Greenland a lot. And when I spoke to her on the phone from Paris, suddenly she said, I'm very uncomfortable talking about issues of independence, of how we see Greenland on the phone. I don't know who you are. I'm like, I'm a journalist. You can Google me. And she was like, I have to say the head of our university has called us this morning. We've had warnings from the Secret Service of Denmark saying, be careful. Foreign agents might be trying to call you, get information of what's going on in the Arctic, the mineral reserves. Be very careful. So
sensitive subject.
It's a very sensitive subject. So it just shows you difficult to work on that issue. And also for Denmark, it's tricky to ask Danish people what they think about Greenland. Because yes, they're the former colonial power. They're seeing Greenlanders want their independence even more. They granted, if you will, autonomy, a lot of autonomy since 2009. And that's a movement that could continue.
And Clovis, real quickly, where can viewers find your report?
On YouTube, on our website. On YouTube, you can find one of our reports, which is Greenland anti-Trump supporters. Type those keywords, you'll find the report. And another story report also on Greenland, the youth and the desire for independence. And that's also on YouTube and on our website, of course.